Okay, yeah, and I'm going to give Art Linkletter some attention in a way that has uh, uh, given the factor of finding favor in a more adequate direction. Okay, so it's kind of like a um, getting to the point of um, get smart, get Maxwell smart, pile, yeah, you know, and then it's the Art Linkletter. Art Linkletter, is that you? Is that Art Linkletter with like Peter at the pearly gates of heaven? Oh my God, like we in the Book of Thessalonians on Mount Olives. Oh my God, some haloed venue, some like Robert Halfley, the pi r squared, yeah, spherical quadrant, yeah, some haloed venue of the toilet, right? Oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. Art Linkletter with Peter at the pearly gates of heaven. You kidding me? Oh my God. Yeah. So, and it gets to the transfiguration and re-entering heaven, and it's kind of like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, and you brought your own roll of toilet paper. Are you kidding me? Are all those the names written in the book of life? Are you kidding me, man? Oh yeah, man. It's kind of like it's at the evangelist. Yeah, right. So, yeah. So it gets to it, and about the greatness of um, the alphanumerics of 192, and that one word in the Book of Thessalonians, the Transfiguration. And it's like, are you kidding me? I thought the address was at CBS. Are you kidding me? The State of the Union address. Okay, it's not the State of the Union address. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, like I said, a telepathic Pentagon. You know. So in any case, it's kind of like it gets to that. Well, drum roll, please. It's a telepathic drummer. Oh my God. It's kind of like you kidding me? That's Art Linkletter. Are you kidding me? With Peter being 64, it's like that All American Oracle, movie, music minus anything, and all that greatness about the Israel and that religious Christian thing, beyond Camp David and you know, beyond the front lines of the base front, going beyond the Lee Iacocca acceptance speech of the century at Plymouth Rock, right? And the real American Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving turkey bird day thing, yeah. So anyway, something about the Israel and the 6 point star, um, or two triangles, um, representing the direction, um, and I think it's the bird thing. So many things about the bird, and the bird of Israel being, I think it's pronounced whoop whoopo or something like that. Um, I'm not real sure of the pronunciation, but it's kind of like it had ultimately gotten to even the similarities of and the marlin swordfish and the flying fish, representative of the bird thing by comparison, and the swordfish, and you've heard it before. The pen is mightier than the sword, but it's kind of like like it's Pinocchio mightier than the swordfish. It's the Mickey Mantle issue, and Pinocchio's on deck with the highest on deck. ERA, yeah, okay, so great. Anyway, so back to the Art Linkletter thing. It's kind of like hey man, you know, keep America beautiful. Don't litter. Keep America beautiful. It's like, oh come on, man. Like my toilet paper is computer literate, comparable to scientific notation. Some marginal spread and you know. Uh, direction at the stock exchange. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. And yeah, so as a matter of fact, the thing about that, keep America beautiful, that Art Linkletter has provided favor that might lead to a more adequate direction. Some alignment of parallel universe, narrows a path that leads to righteousness thing, right? In alignment of parallel universe. So it's like, hey, it's obviously a must-have thing, keep America beautiful. Well, it would have to be a must-have thing, yeah. So, yeah, so, all right, so finding favor in that way of, is it like really the only time some people make a decision? It's like when or where if the type man is actually somewhere, designating, paramount of utmost paramount um, importance issues with reflecting that the nativity point of origin. So like get smart, get Maxwell smart, pile. Yeah. All right. So good. There it is. And yeah. So like the art link that are getting to the pearly gates of heaven with Peter, and all that good stuff about that. The name's written in the book of life. At that way of keeping America beautiful, and don't litter, right? So by comparison of comparable to scientific notation, there will be some reference going beyond the pearly gates of heaven and re-entering heaven with that one word, the Transfiguration, the Book of Thessalonians, and Mount Olive, while canvassing my Halo schematic on that, Halo venue, some like great rising canyon thing, and even some special factor of like Moses like on it, like Moses is like really on it. I totally named me phrase, yeah. The thing with it is that really, when it gets to the spherical quadrants in that way, and something about the pi r squared, and a Robert Half thing, it's kind of like it's almost like whether or not if the mending factors, whether or not of finding the diameter by having the use of a radius squared would reflect maybe something about the not necessarily the Fifth Amendment, or maybe what the Fifth Amendment might mean. Not that discrimination would really be the word, although, like, I've said it before. If it really gets to what a radius is, and let's see, what is that, 71, 18, 19, 23, 32, 52, so 71, like Parallel. So get smart, yeah, just kind of like a pasty, one pasty symbol, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit more about it, yeah. So there's some like really good stuff about the promissory notes and GMAC and HOA, in the International Electronic Engineering and the O thing, going into whether or not if proper English grammatical composition, yay, and the reason why one type of pronoun of the four cannot be used as a subject, and how that might thoroughly suggest maybe if that really serves as what intellectual might mean by ways of constitutional law, with whether or not if stationary engineering is the easement, and maybe potentially maybe something of the the reason why one type of pronoun cannot be used as a subject, if that's actually involving intellectual in the way of like what deed restrictions are and are not, but like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, in the sense of like Pisa being 78 in zip code, or maybe even an accusation of using a map in geographics as a form of civil rights issues. And if civil rights issues is really any accusation of itemization or tax reformation, or what litigation is or is not, or like if anyone can even distinguish the difference on the tax form, if what they're actually filling out is restitution in the form of litigation on the tax form, and not even know it like their whole entire life, right? So anyway, I was thinking about the deed restrictions in that way, and most people like what titles of ownership mean and value in real estate, if it really gets to the point as a release of obligation to the effectiveness of whether title of ownership is a question based upon deed restrictions. And normally people who own everything are not really in need or governed in that way of deed restrictions that would maybe be a community effort, but normally that would be an automatic anyway, not necessarily a question of what was actually required to actually accomplish maybe that type of status anyway. Whether it might involve maybe an electronic province in a high-rise as well. What deed restrictions might suggest as compared to what leasing or renting might mean, whether or not the intellectual would only be representative of whether or not if the one pronoun that cannot be used as a subject would only be a reflection of whether or not if there's the legitimacy and meeting all the requirements for that, maybe even provide the protection of what the Fifth Amendment might suggest, and not really that at all. Maybe a preventative form of protection that might even suggest maybe certain factors of, whether if a VIN number per se is actually identified in description for use in that way. Not necessarily a juvenile, although juvenile, yeah, I mean if it's a Jew thing, and the elective God's chosen people of a Jew and a VIN number in a car, or any something about the law giving protection, and the word has been juvenile. It's not limited to, and what that really has to do with syllables. What, yeah, truthfully so. If it really gets into the issue of the map, being the 30 thing, or the Vantage Love 30 thing. Yeah, I've really been looking real into my memory about that. Vantage Love 30, and what a map, a baby in the Bible, in that way of not limited to. I mean, the map is really the big deal, and what it really means in the way of maybe if civil rights issues is going to be without no discrimination to the fullest extent. There's something about the word faction. My perception, I haven't really seen, or really even had a need. And what is truthfully involved, I mean, it's almost maybe to the extent of, not necessarily, anyway, maybe it might be a little bit more of maybe a situation or the truth that might just go on and beyond recognition or compliment or acknowledgement and be a continuation into just like, hey man, okay, all right, but in any case, so there was something about that the faction that went into information in the world news involving I believe it was like United Nations and a coup. Pronunciation, as far as certain factors of like the KU ban in television, there's like something about the military function of K television and K radio that thoroughly give the thing about the pronunciation in that way with the KU ban. I'm not sure if it's just limited to two or if that's separate between television and radio, or both including, two with television, two with radio, or what the case may be. But anyway, so there was something about that that I was kind of like thinking about. But in any case, so there was something that way about the Fifth Amendment and the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press, getting to that point of whether or not that protection by the court would be something more along like not discrimination of any age, sex, creed, color, religion, in that way as far as what the stationary engineer involving intellectual property, if really the protection suggests an age group, if that age group is considered intellectual or responsible for its own participation, or if that would include what a deed restriction is while driving, or what all that means while parked in the driveway, or before, during, and after transportation, and in park, and what all that means in the driveway, or if it's granted as a safeguard, not necessarily limited to an age group in any kind of way, but more so maybe along the lines of just the pronunciation of juvenile, in the event of a vehicle, or the Jews being like really like the religious chosen elect of God thing, like really a thing about it, um, and something about the river and the driver, um, and what that means too of whether or not that's going to be an accusation of intent. I don't know if I would call it intent of liquidation, or anyway, like I'll think about it anyway. So anyway, it gets to the having the right to assemble and what a zip code is, that way of maybe an accusation of geographics suggesting having the right to assemble, and what intellectual might mean, representative of a specific area, and how maybe potentially one of the four pronouns that cannot be used as a subject, if that would even include, because of one situation, the entire zip code, or maybe even a potential security issue that would be whether if a Securities Exchange Commission would be a simple an acronym between maybe some factors of I'll get into that later, but above the normal perception of what that is or is not, or maybe even a Robert Half thing, truthfully, of a pi r squared thing. Pi being 3.1416, and I'd mentioned it before. It's kind of like Robert E. Rubin being United States Secretary of Treasury, and his last name Rubin being 64, and like an American movie, Oracle, and Music Minus A, and Israel, and all kinds of stuff, that way, zero, and all that, and a lot of stuff about, him specifically, and the tribe of Rubin, predominantly focused, given as like one of the tribes, if not the only tribe, that predominantly was like the tribe of scribes, and thoroughly focused on it, and even gets into the isometrics. Anyone who might get the perception of implication, or even navigation, using the stars, or getting into even the rocket science, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I was getting to that point of whether or not if the tribe of Rome involving the scribes would even get into whether or not if de facto is like the stationary engineer, and the pi r squared issue, and whether or not if the exclusionary rule provision would be the similarities of like why only half the line, reflecting the radius, would be similar to maybe an endorsement and method of banking in that way, and whether or not if we are all one in Christ through the baptism, and maybe what that might mean in that way of I'm looking into that right now, but anyway, it's just something I was thinking about, and I've been focusing on, truthfully, specifically on my memory. But in any case, yeah, that's something I'm thinking about, because as far as like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or like deed restrictions that would be ratifying and codifying constitutional law, and what amendments might suggest in that way, to simple mathematics. It's kind of like the pi being the 3.1416, and the 3.17 being 147 being like Robert E. Rubin. The 3.1416 is kind of like the 16 being like a holy religious day, like Sunday normally is, and the 6 remaining days of the week being 7, and ultimately 147, um, something, you know, as far as I'm concerned, that way. In any case, yeah, so, anyway, I'm looking at that, so, yeah, great. So, anyway, yeah, I'm gonna take a break and, maybe get something to eat, and, I'll be back in a little while, alright?